Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for this month's edition of the Real World Parenting Conversation Series. I'm Pam Evans. I'm the Director of Marketing and Development for FSGC. As you may know, Family Service and Guidance Center specializes in treating kids of all ages who struggle with mental health issues such as anxiety or depression, ADHD, behavior issues, really the whole gamut. But tonight, we are here for you all. We are pleased to offer these free monthly parenting workshops to the community. This month, it is generously sponsored by Azura Credit Union. So we can't thank them enough. Being able to offer these, we know parenting, especially the little ones with big emotions, not easy, not easy at all. So we hope that you take some good pieces of information with you this evening. So a couple of quick housekeeping notes. Please note we are recording the session. So if you happen to know anybody who also has a preschooler that you think would benefit from this, we will put this up on our website after the session. That it'll probably happen tomorrow, so you can always get to it later. Also, if you need a certificate of attendance for if you're a foster family, anything like that, please, if you could type your first and last name in the chat box, we will make sure that we get a certificate to you. So yeah, first and last name. And if you could write certificate, that would be great. Lastly, if you could make sure, if you're not already muted, please go ahead and mute yourself. We want to make sure everybody is able to focus on Dr. Connie Romig, who will be leading us this evening. She is our amazing early childhood intervention program manager for tonight's topic. And we lovingly called it A Parent's Survival Guide to the Preschool Years. Because, we know it's hard. So she's going to tell you all a little bit about herself and give a brief kind of overview. And then we're going to jump into your questions because we've got some great questions that you all probably have submitted in addition. So Connie, I'm going to mute myself and probably turn off my video and take it away.
Well, okay. So I'm Dr. Connie Romig. I've been with Family Service and Guidance Center for 19 years. And I am, as Pam mentioned, I am the coordinator manager of our early childhood intervention program, and I supervise our team of clinicians who specialize in working with young children and their families. I'm also a registered play therapist supervisor, which means I specialize, in knocking my phone over. I specialize in working with young kids in therapy and their families. And I just wanted to, I wanted to hit some high points that I think all parents should hear. I am exhausted because I'm also a parent, so just bear with me as I get through this. Many of the questions y'all submitted, which are great, were similar. They're similar themes. And so I wanted to touch on some things that hopefully address a lot of those issues. First and foremost, as parents, we have to take care of ourselves before we can take care of anyone else, whether they're little or medium size or big or grown, whatever. We have to take care of ourselves. Just like for being in the airplane, and you have to put your oxygen mask on yourself before you can help your little person put their oxygen mask on. It's the same idea. You have to take care of yourself. If you are not physically and mentally well, you're not going to be able to manage behaviors. Second, and I don't know, this when I was told this, when my children were preschool age, someone said this to me, and it felt like the weight of the world just went off my shoulders. You can't make anyone do anything. You can't. You can't make anyone do anything. What a relief. The reason people do for each other is based in the relationship that they have with one another. How do good teachers get kids to be motivated? Because they have a relationship with those kids. And so some of what we do when we're working with families in therapy is we build their relationship. We have fun together. It doesn't have to be anything expensive. It doesn't have to be going and buying things. It is spending time together, being silly, being goofy, and enjoying one another. And that is one way. Strengthening your relationship with, doesn't even have to be your kid. It can be your significant other. It can be your parent. It can be your friend. And people do for each other based on the relationship that we have with them. So relationship is key, and getting people to do what you need them to do or want them to do. Something to remember, a lot of people ask questions about what is developmentally normal for young kids. And I just want to remind people that the range of what is developmentally normal is quite big. So I very much encourage parents to try not to compare your 3-year-old with the 3-year-old who lives down the block, because just because that 3-year-old is doing something does not mean something your 3-year-old is not, does not mean that your 3-year-old is behind. There is quite a wide range of what is developmentally appropriate. Somebody needs to mute themselves. I can hear a lot of scraping. I don't know if anybody else can, but I can. So please make sure you're on mute. So remember that please try not to compare your child to other children of the same age, because simply kids, especially under the age of 5, 6, they can be all over the place and still be within the range of what is developmentally normal. So let's not compare and contrast your kids. If you really think that your child is behind, then you need to talk to your pediatrician or another mental health professional, and we can help you with that issue. Don't just go around comparing your 3-year-old or 4-year-old to other 3 or 4-year-olds, because they could be like, for example, walking. Some kids start walking at 9 months, and other kids start walking at 2 years. Well, 2 years is a little bit far out of the norm, but 18 months, let's say, that's 9 months difference. That can be, both of those are developmentally normal and in between. Okay. I know I thought that was going to take a lot longer, so I need to slow down. Many folks asked about, and I think we even advertised on our flyers about how to manage tantrums. And I really want to emphasize the idea that our little people are learning how to regulate emotion. That's part of natural development. They are learning what emotions are. They are also, their brains aren't fully formed. And so we need to give them lots of guidance and have lots of patience with them. It just is part of being a little kid, is figuring these things out. And so lots of folks are like, well, what do I do when my kid is tantruming? How do I help my kid when he is a lot of it is, how do I get my kid to stop tantruming? And again, I'm going back to relationship. Let's think about the relationship you have with your kiddo. If your kid is tantruming, throwing a fit, can't manage big emotions, and an adult comes in and yells at that kiddo, that might stop that kid from tantruming, but they're going to be frightened. They're going to be scared. What we really want to do is we want to connect. We call this is from Dan Siegel and Tina Payne Bryson. Their book is called The Whole Brain Child. We really love it at our agency. We teach our parenting classes based on some of these parenting strategies from these books. And one of the first parenting strategies is called connect and redirect. So your 2-year-old is fussing about something and starts to throw themselves down around and pound or whatever. The first thing we want to do is get down to their level and connect with them. We are modeling for them how to use words. Well, first of all, we're telling them this is what mad is, right? You're angry. You're really angry, or you're really frustrated, or, oh, that was really frustrating for you. You want to connect so that they feel like you're helping them manage. They see that you're getting it. I have this big emotion and I can't hold it all by myself. So here, mommy, you take some of it. And this takes some practice too. It really does take some practice. And your little person at first is going to probably look at you like you're crazy because, wait, what are you doing? But you get down on their level and if they're crying, oh, you're really sad, or, oh, you fell and hurt, you have an owie, oh, you connect with them, connect with the feeling that they are expressing. One, like I said, they get that you get it. They get that you understand what they're feeling. They pick up on your empathy for them, which builds on your relationship to them, with them, excuse me. And two, you're modeling for them using their words. You're helping them identify what the emotions are and how to use their words to express emotions. Like, you can have a big emotion and you can talk about it without completely becoming overwhelmed and falling out. So, what was that? I was going to say something else and it went right out of my head. Connect and redirect. So you're really frustrated that you couldn't get your block tower to stand. You were trying to make that block tower really, really high. Hey, how about if we go over here and do this? So you connect with them, you connect with them on the emotional level, and then you redirect them to something else, hopefully, which will snag their attention and kind of let them calm down. And once they're calm, that's when you can talk to them. In fact, I would recommend that with anyone. If you just think about yourself. If you're in the middle of a fight with your significant other, let's say, and you're arguing with each other, and your significant other keeps at you, and you're an emotional state, can you really be logical? Well, maybe we're not at our most logical. Well, and certainly kids under the age of 5 are not logical. They just aren't. They don't have that capability. Oh, thank you. Connect and redirect has changed our life. Somebody wrote, that's great. Kids do not, seriously, they do not have that part of their brain. It is not developed yet. You cannot be logical with a child, especially when they're emotional. So when we talk about when a child is emotional, they're crying, they're tantruming, they're working from what's called their limbic brain, which is kind of the middle level of their brain. So the primal level of their brain is the brainstem. And, when somebody is raging, that's where they're working from. Your brainstem is in control of very, very primitive instinctual kinds of things and involuntary kinds of things like breathing and sleeping and things like that. The middle part of your brain is your limbic system, which is in charge of your emotional world. And then as we develop, as we get older, and now we know, researchers have shown us that a human brain isn't fully formed until the early 20s, when we get our cerebral cortex is completely developed. And our cerebral cortex is the logical part of our brain. So if a kiddo is being very emotional and crying and or tantruming, they're in their emotional start of their brain. You can't even start trying to be logical with them. In addition to the fact that their logical part of their brain really isn't fully formed. So when someone is anyone, but particularly young children, if they are in being emotional, you want to connect with them, want to connect with that emotional feeling, those emotions. Again, it helps them feel like I'm not alone in this. My person is understands where I'm coming from, because they'll tell you if you're wrong. I mean, that's why I love working with little kids. They're so honest about that. They'll tell you if you're wrong. And just think about yourself when somebody says, I'm right here for you. I'm right here to help you. Whew, it just takes the load off. I mean, it just makes you release some of those big emotions. So what else? So connect and redirect was what I wanted to mention. Okay. Now, a lot of folks also talked about or asked about, how do I get my young ones to stop hitting or biting or kicking or being aggressive? And again, I would say, well, first I want people to think about where that comes from. Where do you think, and if you have an answer, you can certainly unmute yourself and speak up, but where do you think that aggression comes from? Why do you feel like, what's your observation? Why do young kids strike out or kick or hit or bite? Anybody have an idea or want to type in an answer in the comment or the chat box?
I feel
Maybe
like,
out of frustration.
Frustration?
Yeah, I feel like in moments like that, it's when he really wants me, but doesn't know how to ask for it. And so I try to calm down and just watch him play it out. But most of the time, it's really when he really wants me, but he's not sure why I'm not sure why he wants me. I mean, I'm trying to understand what's going on. That's pretty much where I'm at sometimes with him. Like,
Right.
Oh, I don't know, but I'm here.
You're both right. Both of those comments were right on. Those are the two things I had written down, is frustration and an inability to communicate needs and wants. So good job. So the little kids, some of us big kids, we still aren't great at feeling what's in our body and connecting it to our language. And so what am I feeling in my body and how do I express it? How do I ask for what I need? How do I, so many parents and caregivers are so good at reading their baby's minds, right? That makes you a good parent. When your baby is a baby and can't talk, we have to go, okay, remember the checklist? Okay, do we have to, does he need his diaper changed? Oh, is he hungry? Oh, is he tired? Is he bored? Does he want some entertainment? We have to go through that checklist of possible needs to figure out why our baby is fussing. We did such a good job of that. Now our kiddos are getting a little bit older, and just because they can talk doesn't mean that they are able to communicate their needs and wants. And so having that checklist in your head as the grown-up is probably a good idea to keep around, even when they're teenagers. Teenagers aren't good at communicating this stuff either. So think to yourself, okay, did he get enough sleep last night? Oh, maybe he's really tired. Oh, he could be hangry, right? He's just like me. When he gets hungry, he gets angry. So let's maybe take a break and have a snack. Is he lonely? Has he been, cooped up in his room by himself for the last 2 hours, doing whatever? Kind of having that checklist in your head. Can I meet those needs? But yes, kids strike out of frustration and inability to communicate what they're wanting or what they're needing. So is there one technique to stop kids from being aggressive? Heck no, every kid's different, right? So I don't have the answer. There is no one. I should have emphasized that. I should put that on my list of things too. There's no one right way to do this stuff. And once you figure it out, this is what's so frustrating about parenting and these little turkeys that we have, is once you figure something out and it works, guess what? They develop, and 2 months later, it's not going to work. So then we have to figure it out again. And yes, you're right. Somebody said, I feel aggression is part of the developmental, just the developmental trajectory. It is. And as parents, it's our job to help kids. It's their way of trying to manage big emotions, excuse me. And so, you probably know some adults like this too, right? Maybe they don't get aggressive, but they get angry, or they have a big emotion and they slam a door, or they stomp around, or they have to leave because it's just too overwhelming and they can't communicate in the moment. So I really encourage caregivers, parents, to think about, okay, he's trying to communicate something to me. She is frustrated about something. So my job is to try to help her figure out what that is, so that next time she might be in a better place. And while it's really, it's not a bad idea to encourage kids to use their words, first we got to make sure they have the words, right? And so it's really good as adults that we model for little kids, when you're feeling frustrated about something, to say, yes, we will move on in a second, to say, I'm really frustrated, or, oh, I'm really mad about that. Okay. I wanted to cover a couple of those things. So I want to answer your questions now. Does anyone have something that is standing out for them that you can use right in the chat box? I'm looking at a couple here. Someone asks, do preschool children experience depression, and how can we help? Yes, I believe preschool children can experience the whole array of emotional reactions, whether it's depression or anxiety. How would we know? We would notice a significant change in sleeping patterns, a significant change in appetite, although changes in appetite is pretty common when kids are growing and hitting growth spurts and stuff. So just because a kid has a change in appetite doesn't mean they're depressed. It's just one of the things that we're looking for. How can we help a kiddo with depression? Again, I go back to connection. You look sad. Let's say the family pet has passed away, and you notice that they're sitting in the corner kind of being really quiet. It's important for the adult to say, I'm noticing you're being really quiet and you look sad. I'm wondering if you're thinking about Fido. You want to talk about him. It's important to open those doors, open the door to the conversation, so that they know it's okay for them to talk about it. People asked questions about screen time. So I do want to address that. Screen time and their preschooler. I know one thing that many families that I've worked with, my own children have an issue with, is giving up the screen, right? When they get on the screen, and then it's really difficult to get them off the screen. There's fits and there's big emotions during that time. In our house, we are currently working on rewarding young children for giving up the screen without having major meltdowns. So if we give them a warning, we usually say, hey, you've got 10 more minutes on your device. And then when I say, okay, time is up, when they hand over the device, if they do it without, getting all frustrated and upset, they get a pom-pom in the jar. We have a pom-pom jar. We just put pom-poms in it. And then once the pom-pom jar is full, either they earn an extra 15 minutes on their device, or we do something fun as a family, maybe go for a bike ride or go out for ice cream or something. But we do try to do it as a collaborative thing, so that I have 2 children, so that they are kind of impacting each other's behavior. Another thing I really recommend is having very specific guidelines around screen time. Now is when you can have your screen. It's predictable, it's routine. So maybe that is after dinner for an hour, or when mommy has to go to this meeting every day, then little person gets this device for that half hour. Another idea that I use with many of my families that I see in therapy is they earn their screen time. They have to do X, Y, and Z, and then they get their half an hour of screen time, whether it's, I don't know, their morning routine. I mean, definitely in the morning. Well, we don't even have screens in the morning. We don't even turn on the TV. They don't have screens in the morning. It just gets in the way. Did anybody have any other questions about screen time, use of devices that I could answer right now? Type a question in the chat box for Pam. I guess not. Okay. Let's see. See, a lot of these questions that I'm looking at, I would answer connect and redirect. How to handle children when they don't want to listen. Well, you can't really do anything. So you connect with them and redirect. Should I be concerned with lying at this age? I would, I tend not to call when under 6-year-olds play with the truth. I don't call it lying, simply because lying and stealing, for that matter, kind of implies intention, right? Like they intend to trick you, or they are intending to take something without people finding out. And most kids under the age of 6 play with the truth, and they also take something. I know almost everybody I know, everybody I've ever interviewed, all the kids that I've talked to, they've stolen something at one point in their life, and that is a teaching moment, right? That's a time to teach them about stealing. Well, with lying, again, I don't like to call it lying. With playing with the truth is developmentally expected about 5, 6, 7 years of age. Kids, are you being silly? Sometimes, yep. I like to reflect back on my mom, how my mom handled all 4 of us. She was omniscient, meaning she knew everything, right? We lived in a neighborhood where she was going to find out anyway. And so and she always acted that way. Like, I'm going to find out anyway, because she usually would. Our neighbors would tell her, our teachers would tell her. And so she was like, you might as well tell us. And so my youngest brother's 4 of us, and he was the youngest, he'd end up telling on himself every time he did something bad, simply because that's the house we lived in. Like he knew she was going to find out eventually. So I think when they're playing with the truth, and so you can say, did that really, really happen? And you can teach them about the distinction between lying and telling the truth. There's lots of great children's books out there about telling the truth. Berenstain Bears has some great, the Berenstain Bear series has a great book about it. Trying to think of the other one I have in my office. Mr. Rogers has books about lying and stuff, just to help them understand. I want to be able to trust what you say. And so yes, you can play it up a little bit. You can say, are you telling me stories? Did that really, really happen? Are you telling me a story? And if they're wanting to tell a story, okay, let's tell a story. We're telling a story right now, and really overemphasize the fact that they're telling that story. And it's pretty typical for kids to try to tell you what they think you want to hear in order for them to avoid getting into trouble, right? They're not going to come out and say, yes, I hit my brother, or yes, I took his toy, because they know they're going to get into trouble. So it is pretty typical for kids, little kids this age, in this age range, to fib in order to try to avoid getting into trouble. Again, it's a teaching moment. It's really important that you tell me the truth so that I know I can believe what you say. And even, you know, if they're in a preschool setting, school setting, whatever, you know, they do something at school, their teacher's probably going to tell you. And so you're going to find out about it anyway. And that way you can kind of say, did that really happen? Yeah. What was your role in it? Sort of thing. Consequences. Yeah. Consequences. A lot of folks asked about, how do I make consequences effective for my little kids? I try to encourage families to use natural consequences. So, for example, and this is just a very simple example. I mean, it can't be used in every single situation, but let's say your 3-year-old just refuses to put on her coat. Okay, well, are you going, when my kiddos were a little bit younger, I'd say, well, are you going to carry your coat, or are you going to wear your coat? And that way they felt like they had a choice, because I feel that is important. You know, they want to be in control of something. Are you going to carry your coat, or are you going to wear your coat? The natural consequence, I'm not going to fight them about it. I'm not going to wrestle them into their coat. The natural consequence is they go outside and they're cold. That's the natural consequence. So if you can utilize a natural consequence, use it, right? It's just going to happen naturally, and they'll learn from it. That way you're not always the bad guy. The other thing I really try to encourage the families that I work with is to not so much think about punishing bad behavior or consequencing undesired behavior, but to really focus on desired behavior. So if you, you know, you want, here's a good example, I guess. Little kiddos are playing together, and this is typical in my office. Kids are playing, there's toys everywhere, and they just kind of walk on the toys. And I'll say, oh, let's step over the toys. And then I'll get up and I'll overact it. I'll step over the toys, really big, acting it out. And then when they do it, I notice it, you stepped over the toys, as opposed to, don't step on the toys. No, stop, don't. No, stop, don't. No, stop, don't. Because they don't hear that part. They don't hear the no. They don't hear the stop. They don't hear the don't. So we want to focus on what you want them to do. And then you get excited when they do that. Another person asked about sharing. It is perfect. It's pretty developmentally appropriate for the kids this age to not want to share. That's pretty typical. What I try to do, especially if there's like an older sibling and a younger sibling, because that little younger sibling really wants to do whatever the older sibling is doing. What I try to do, you know, so the older sibling may have a little bit more play skills. They may be acting things out, and they might have a scene. You know, they might have the farm out and they're playing with the farm animals, or you know, the race cars or whatever, and they're playing out something. And here comes little brother, and he just wants to do whatever. He wants what little big brother has, and he just goes in there and grabs. And so he's not really playing at the level that older brother is. What I'll say is, instead of, punishing big brother for snatching the truck away from the little brother, I will really emphasize, look, your little brother just really wants to do what you're doing. He really wants to play with the race cars too. I wonder if you could pick a race car for him to play with. And that way, again, big brother feels like they have a little bit of control. They give little brother what little brother wants, which is something that big brother has. And then sometimes that really is effective. And little brother is happy because big brother gave him something. Isn't that wonderful? It's terrific. Okay, what cracks me up when he remembers. He wants to share yeah. Okay, that's funny. Okay. Does anyone have wait, where do you go? Where'd everybody go? What did I do? Close that. There we go. Anybody have any other specific questions about anything I've talked about to this point, or do you have another area that I haven't touched on? If you want to jot it in the chat box. Let's see. I'm not getting anything. Son has ADHD, and that a lot of the discipline techniques that they have used with other children, whether it was their own children or other kiddos that they've been around, doesn't seem to work for the kiddo who has ADHD. So for those for most kiddos, but particularly those kiddos who have ADHD, I would recommend that whatever you're using needs to be immediate. So if let's say you are you want to focus. You want to focus on a specific desired behavior. Again, I would really recommend we want to teach desired behavior and reward desired behavior rather than focusing on trying to stop. It's like if you're dieting, right? If you're dieting, it's really, really hard to stop thinking about eating all this chocolate. And so maybe what we should focus on is what we want to do more of. So let's talk about, I want to eat 3 new vegetables or 3 more vegetables today. That's a better goal and an easier and more attainable goal than to stop thinking about eating chocolate, right? So same thing with kids. We want to focus on a specific desired behavior. So let's say I want him to pick up his toys. I would even be more specific, especially as they get younger, as the child is younger, the younger the child is, I'd be more and more specific. So if you're trying to get them to pick up their toys, let's say, one, we don't want a big complicated system, right? We don't want all the trucks in this basket and all the cars in this basket and all the blue Legos in this basket and all the yellow Legos in this basket. Probably the more simple the system is, the easier it'll be for your young person, especially a young person with ADHD, to achieve that goal. So if we're saying, okay, we want him to pick up his toys. When do you want him to do that? We want him to do that right after dinner, right before bedtime, whatever it is. You set it up for them, and this is what we want to do. We're going to pick up your toys. And maybe you need to help them at first too. One of the rules in my office is actually, I only have 2. I have 2 rules in my office. Everyone stays safe, which covers a lot of things. And if you play with toys, you have to help pick up. I didn't say you have to pick them all up. I said you have to help pick up. So kids can be very successful in my office, at least to get started. But let's say you want your kid to pick up the toys or clean their room. That's even worse. So you go in and, okay, you got to clean up your room. You got to clean your room. You got to clean your room. This kid is 4. Where do I even start, right? He doesn't know. So he needs help. You have to break it down into simple instructions. Are you going to pick up your dirty clothes and put them in the hamper? Or are you going to pick up your shoes first? If we're talking about picking up toys, are you going to pick up the Legos first? Or are you going to pick up your race cars first? That way you're giving them a choice, giving them a sense of control, and you're breaking down the task into smaller, more bite-sized pieces. Like if I told you to go home and clean your house, oh my gosh, that's pretty overwhelming. But if I say, hey, how about you go home, hi honey, if you go home and clean your bathroom or do your dishes, that's a more specific task. That's more manageable. It's more achievable. And then once they finish one of those steps, you can get excited. You don't have to give them something tangible. You can just get excited. Yay, you did it. Look at you finished it. Okay, now we're gonna do your balls. Let's pick up the balls, or pick up the balls and put them away. Yay, we put all the balls away. Yeah, it takes a lot of energy, but it takes a lot less. It takes a lot more energy to punish a kid than to be a cheerleader for a kid. So I'd much rather be the cheerleader, right? I'd much rather be encouraging and supportive rather than having to try to punish. And research has shown us that punishment doesn't quite work very well. It might stop a behavior in the moment, but it doesn't really stop a behavior on the long term. It doesn't teach the child what they should be doing. So we really want to focus on, what do you want them to do that's specific? How can I break it down into simple steps? And then how can I reinforce those steps when the child achieves those steps? Let's see. Not sharing, taking away. Yep. Number one important thing us as parents need to remember to make sure our kids are emotionally developing. I would go back to, you are modeling for them, regulating and managing your own behaviors. That's probably the number one thing to help your child manage their own behavior, own emotions and behaviors. Pam, were you going to say something?
Yes, there was a question here. What do we do with children who are not toilet trained yet and are 4 or 5 years old? Thoughts?
Ooh, well, we want to get them interested. Is there again, it depends. It depends on the kiddo. Has there been something scary that happened to them in the bathroom? Has someone been punitive with them around going to the bathroom? Have they been punished around going to the bathroom? What we really want to do is focus on it being a cool thing, right? It's cool, it's fun. Maybe if they go sit on the potty, that's when they get to use their screen. Oh, what a great idea, right? Right? Like if you go, you know what? If we can go sit on the potty, you can use your screen for 15 minutes. Let's go try sitting on the potty. What I would really encourage, one, you can always come in and talk to us, but think about little teeny tiny steps. And again, encouraging those little teeny tiny steps. Like in our household, we all end up in the bathroom together. I don't know why, but somebody will be brushing their teeth, somebody will be in the shower, somebody's going to the bathroom, and everybody looks around and go, hey, we're in the bathroom again together. So, hey, if it's like a little boy, hey, daddy's going potty, let's go potty, let's go use the potty. For little boys, you can encourage, putting Cheerios in the toilet and getting them to aim at the Cheerios. Or some people use ping pong balls because they don't get sucked into the sewer system. Some people there's different, you can put Lysol or like the yellow Pine Sol in your, not the yellow kind. You can put some kind of, cleaning cleanser in the toilet. And when they pee, it changes color. Ooh, it's so exciting. So you can make it more interesting and more exciting that way. You could, if it's for defecating, if they're having a hard time pooping on the potty because it hurts, we would want to talk to the pediatrician, obviously, to make sure nothing's going on. We were medically with them, but maybe it hurts. Maybe it hurts to poop. So what do we need to do? Give them lots and lots and lots of fluids, right? Get them drinking lots and lots of water so that things soften up a little bit more. We want to just let them sit there, give them their screen and let them sit in there for 15 or 20 minutes. And maybe they'll relax enough and then it'll just happen naturally, fingers crossed. And then you can get really, really excited about the fact that they did it. If they're just really stubborn, they won't even go in and try to use the potty or the toilet. Let's say you're using pull-ups. How about working on just getting them to come? The starting point might be just getting them to come and tell you, hey, I wet myself, I wet my pull-up. Then you can get excited at that. Okay, matter of fact, yay, you told me, I'm so proud of you for telling me. Okay, let's get you cleaned up and incorporate them in getting themselves cleaned up, right? They're old enough to do some wiping and some cleaning of themselves. So that they feel some, we call it efficacy, like the sense of I've accomplished something and I can do it. And then you gradually make the steps a little bit closer to graduated steps to using the toilet. I like the idea of giving them that screen so that they can sit there for a few minutes and relax, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and let them relax to maybe something naturally might happen. I hope that answered the question. Other questions? Pam, do you see any other questions?
Yes, so here is one. I work as a foster grandparent. We get children who are, but not toilet trained. So that's tough. Judy, God love you. Yeah.
Yes. Bless you for being a foster grandparent and taking these kiddos. And we can certainly, you can always consult with us at the agency and we can help you do like a graduated step by step, like how do I reinforce these teeny tiny steps towards getting successful toileting going on.
I know you've talked a bit about the positive ways to really reward the positive. Can you talk just a little bit more maybe, and I apologize, tell me if you've already talked a lot about this, the theory of timeouts.
Okay, I can talk about that for probably the next 13 minutes if you really wanted me to, but
no, not that much.
I won't.
But yeah, just kind of
a few minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Timeout was originally developed not as a punishment. Timeout was meant to give the kiddo and the adult a break from one another and a break from stimulation, right? And so it wasn't meant to be, hey, you go sit in a corner as punishment. It was meant to be, hey, I need to take a step away from you and you need to calm down and we need a break from one another. And then it kind of developed into this whole other life. So it really depends on what your goal is for the timeout. Are you using it as punishment? It may not be effective. As you know, my kids would never stay in timeout. That's what I hear a lot of. I put them in timeout and they don't stay in timeout. Well, of course they're not going to stay in timeout. Why would they? Right? They're not going to sit there and unless they're scared of you. And I don't want my kids to be necessarily afraid of me. So we just said, okay, we actually talk more about time in. So again, when a kid is having big emotions, that's probably when they need you the most. And to send them away from you is basically, the message is, I can't manage you when you're having these big emotions. You're on your own. And when you calm down, then I'll talk to you. I really encourage time in, which is, you're having a big emotion. You're needing me right now. I'm cooking dinner, so you can sit right here and I'm right here with you. And when we can talk, we will talk, but you can sit right here for now. And if you need to cry, you cry. And if you need to stomp your feet, you stomp your feet. You know, you can give them an acceptable expression of their anger. I'm all about stomping around. Let's go outside and stomp. Let's go punch that pillow. That sort of thing. Did I hit it? Did I get it?
Yes, that's super helpful. Super helpful.
I have a question about long-term effects about COVID. What we should expect, long-term effects we should expect from about how COVID impacts the kids this age. And you know, that is a great question. I honestly, I don't know. We don't know how all of this is going to affect kids. But when I read that question, I think, you know, a lot of kids this age, they don't remember much different, right? Usually children, most people cannot remember, that you won't have a long-term memory before age 3, unless it's something significant. Like, for example, I was in the hospital when I was 3 years old, and I do remember being in the hospital, but I don't remember day-to-day things, right? So the pandemic was a day-to-day thing. It became a day-to-day thing. They don't know much different. So I don't know that, you know, having lockdowns, having to wear masks, having to wash your hands, which actually is pretty a good thing, you know, having to wash our hands more is probably a good thing. I don't know that that's going to have much impact on our children. I know, like, my own kids, they've adapted pretty well considering the ups and downs, and they're 8 and 11, the ups and downs that they've been through with being in school, not being in school, being in hybrid, not going back to school full time, getting taken out of school again, back and forth. They've adapted pretty well, and I think it's made them a little more resilient. But I think little kids, like 3-4 year olds, I don't know that they're going to remember much different about the time, right? So, but we will see. We will see. Do you have any other questions coming up, Pam?
I'm not seeing any. Would you want to share just real briefly about our early childhood intervention program and kind of how we help kiddos in the community, the little ones, and kind of how that works? Yes. Real quick?
Yes, I do want to, someone just said something, my little one is constantly craving attention, and I didn't to read all of it, but I do want to quickly tell you this one. We use something called the 30-second burst of attention. So your kiddo, mom, 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 mom. I get that all the time. I mean, all the time. Mom, 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 mom. And what we recommend, it's actually from a Dr. Gary Landreth, who is a very famous play therapist down in Texas. He says, and it's always when you're on the phone, right? It's when you're on the phone. So you're on the phone and here comes the 3-year-old, mom, 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 mom. And so you say, you're talking to the friend, you're talking to the doctor's office, whoever, you say, I'm sorry, my son needs my attention right now. I will be right back with you in 30 seconds. You put the phone down and you look at your child. It's 30 seconds. 30 seconds is not that long. And you just look at the rock that they're wanting to show you, whatever it is, you give them your undivided attention for that amount of time. And then you say, okay, honey, it's time for me to get back on my phone call. and you turn and you pick the phone up again. 95% of the time that has worked for me and for many of my friends. So I highly recommend trying it, is to just give them that undivided attention. Sometimes they only need 10 seconds. Sometimes they only need a few seconds. They just need to tell you something right then and there. And it's conveying to them that they're important to you, right? I'm going to stop. Mommy stops her phone call so that she gives me that attention. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about our early childhood intervention program and our clinicians. So like I said, a lot of our clinicians are specialized in working with kids under the age of 6. Several of them are play therapists, and we use play therapy for lots of reasons, especially if a kiddo has had a traumatic event happen to them. It gives them an opportunity and a way to play out and express their experiences of that. I'm also in charge of our early childhood intervention program, which is a psychosocial group. People think of it as a therapeutic preschool, but it's not quite that. It really is. It's a psychosocial group where we are helping kids manage big emotions, work on anger management, work on social skills. How do we make friends? How do we play with friends? How do we share toys? Our program will take kids, they have to meet certain criteria, but we've taken kids as young as 2, and we just work with them on, most of our kids, I would say, are between 4 and 6, and we just work on emotional regulation, behavioral regulation. Some of the stuff that we were already talking about, but their behaviors are just a little more extreme than most kids. Maybe, they're in the classroom or kindergarten classroom, and they're just not able to manage all the stimulation of the classroom. And so their emotional reactions are a little bit bigger than the other kids. They might come to us and we help them learn how to manage their behaviors a little bit better. And we gradually introduce them back into more and more into that classroom setting. So we might work with them for 6-8 months, and they come to us for those 2.5-3 hours, and they're still in their classroom the rest of the day. But then as they are gaining the skills, we gradually add more time to their school day or add more days to their school week, so that they can, gradually spend more and more time in their classroom as they're learning all of these skills. So did I hit the highlights, Pam?
Yeah. Very good. And that process starts with an initial admission appointment, just like if we had a teenager who was dealing with anxiety or depression, right?
Yes, you just call our main number. It's 232-5005. It's all over the place. Or you can get on our website, fsgctopeka.org.
I
think.
.com. Yeah, it's okay.
Sorry. We have, and you can see the process for getting connected to our services, or you can just call the number, ask for admissions. You'll meet with a clinician who assesses your needs and makes recommendations about what services might be helpful for you.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much. Just a couple of more housekeeping things. Reminder, if you need a certificate, please type your name, first and last name, in the chat box. We'll make sure you get that. Connie, you're awesome as always. Thank you. I wanted to share my screen real quick because we talked a little bit about COVID. Hopefully everyone can see this. We have a program here at FSGC for anyone in the community that has been negatively impacted. And it doesn't have to be child or teen related. So if you know of someone or yourself who have been feeling really stressed out and anxious, need to talk to somebody, maybe you're worried about losing your apartment or house, if you've lost your job, we've got this free program available for the community. You see this black box down here. You can, when you reach out for help, all you have to do is go to our website, fsgctopeka.com/stronger. We have a lot of staff members who have a lot of connections in the community. We had an older gentleman who actually had COVID, was worried about where his next meal was going to come from. We were able to get some resources, get some food dropped off to his doorstep. So things like that. If you know of anybody, if you need this resource, please take advantage of that. Again, a big, huge thanks to Azura Credit Union. And we will be, like I said, uploading this recording to our website, fsgctopeka.com. If you click on the blue parenting resources button, this presentation and a lot of past ones, lots of different topics. So I encourage you to check that out. I think that's all. Connie, did I miss anything that you know of? I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Whoops.
I don't think so. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you got a lot of good tips out of this. And Connie, my parting shot to you is, where were you when I had a toddler? I wish, I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. Dang, we should have done that. So thank you so much, Connie. You're great. And thanks everyone for joining us. All right. Take good care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.